Let's see who we got. It's the second time I try to do this video. Internet went to tripping.
Whether it be that Michael Jackson bleached his skin or that Tupac is alive and living in Cuba. However, on occasion, some of these crazy and outlandish theories...
I ain't lying, I believed in that Tupac. What the fuck is in her mouth, a bat? I believed in that Tupac thing for a while. I was a big believer that Tupac was still alive, the 7-day theory. Like, I used to do research on it, all type of shit. I believed it for a long time. I don't believe it now. I feel like he would have been seen by now, but... let's see what they talking about.
End up being true. So today we're going to be looking into some music myths that turned out to be true, starting off with Michael Jackson's real voice. Real quick, I wanted to say, while researching this video, I found a ton of myths that obviously aren't true, but a lot of them have some really interesting lore, so if you guys are interested in hearing about all that, let me know in the comments below more interesting ones. Also, the way I'm going to be defining myths that we weren't quite sure yet. That all being said, let's get into it. Being one of the biggest artists ever, it makes sense that many myths have developed over time about Michael Jackson. Like I said earlier, it's widely believed by many that he actually bleached his skin, which he has confirmed multiple times.
Now, having a vitiligo or whatever the disease was he had, when he started using the cream, that was a form of bleaching his skin, right? Like, probably not on purpose, but on purpose because he had the vitiligo and all that type of shit going on, so he had to start using cream and shit. So I mean, you actually did bleach your skin because of that, but not hardly because you hated being black and shit like that dude was saying. It just was, you know, a condition he had.
Is not true. There's some even crazier ones, like his face was burned off and he wore a mask, or that he faked his death, but I actually debunked those two in an old video. However, one of the most popular myths about him is that we never actually heard his real voice, which actually turned out to be sort of true. Years ago, there was a video that went viral on Twitter of Michael Jackson supposedly using his real voice on accident.
There should be a couple clips of him using the real voice, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Well, it turns out that that video was edited to make his voice sound deeper, and this is what the actual clip was.
Can you hear me? Okay.
But his voice was actually still a little bit lower. However, that was not the only evidence that fans had. There have been multiple clips of him speaking in a lower voice, multiple accounts from friends that he sounds different, and
a lot of people said he had a deep voice,
which have led fans to believe that Michael Jackson was always hiding his real voice. Michael is known for having a high-pitched voice, but there have been multiple people that have said his voice is actually deeper, like T-Pain, for example.
I'm about to say, how you gonna have a deep voice but you don't even got no nostrils? Man, look at his nose. How is that even possible? That's not a black person nose. You could tell that nose was reconstructed. You can't even stick your finger in your nose if he wanted to. He couldn't get a booger out his nose right now if he wanted to. That's crazy, man. Rest in peace.
Said his voice is actually deeper, like T-Pain, for example.
And his voice is deep as shit. No, it's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
What the real Michael Jackson voice sound like?
Man, this is a new episode, man.
What the fuck the real Michael Jackson voice sound like?
I seen this episode of Pain.
It was between where you think Michael Jackson is and...
Every time T-Pain go on a show or something, this or drink chaps and shit, and nigga go to making a fool of himself. But he got some good stories, so I liked it. It was a good one.
Prince. It was in between that. It was just
hold on, y'all seen
Michael Jackson?
That old lady in the back hitting the blunt.
And Prince.
That was DC blunt. He had gave it to him, let her hit that bitch.
It was kind of like my. Do I have? I don't have a deep one. Listen, so I think Michael's was like a. So what kind of cartoons do you watch?
Others have perpetuated this idea too.
Michael just sitting there with my friend. He said, at a certain point, Michael looked up and said, "Damn, I thought those motherfuckers weren't gonna never leave."
I remember this.
Now, and he says, hold up, and he says this not in, "Damn, I don't think these motherfuckers are gonna never leave." He says it like a black man would say, "Damn, I thought the motherfuckers were gonna never leave." Then he got up and walked out.
His close friend Liza Minnelli said that she heard him talking in a deeper voice and said, "Michael, you're busted. I got you now. All these years you've been talking in that voice." A journalist named Diane Diamond said that he has a deep masculine voice. Piers Morgan said that depending on the seriousness of the conversation, his tone would drop a few octaves, like if they were talking about business, for example. His musical director said, "I remember a time I called him up and he answered the phone and I didn't know I was talking to him because he was talking in his normal voice, which is..."
Yeah, they said Michael used to like to play on people's phone, and when he play on your phone, he'll use a different voice and he'd be disguising his voice and shit. Then you would say, "Who is that?" He'd be like, "No, it's me, Michael."
Pretty deep. Lisa Presley, who Michael was married to for a couple of years and who is also Elvis's daughter, said that when she first met him, he talked in a quote-unquote...
I never heard too much about Elvis' children. Not Elvis. I'm thinking about Prince's children.
Voice. There were also plenty of clips of Michael speaking in a little bit of a lower tone as well.
On the song.
Me too, Cedric.
I still got.
I love you.
Man, when I tell you, Chris Tucker got the funniest motherfucking Michael Jackson story, bruh, I might have to put it at the end of this or do another video about it. That shit had me dying laughing.
You know this, man.
You know this, man.
I have an important message to give, okay?
Thank
you for your cooperation so far. Thank you. Big thank you.
This is everyone saying hello.
Thank you. This means the world to me. It really does.
See, that's his real voice.
I'm a big fan, really.
On top of that, probably one of the deepest voices that we've heard from him is him in the video game Ready to Rumble, where he voiced his actual character.
Michael Jackson.
So you be bad, huh?
What the fuck? That shit had to be fake. That can't be Michael's real voice. And if it is, he must have wanted to use a different voice, because he down bad for that voice.
So you be bad, huh?
What the fuck?
I don't move over for no one.
Of course, Michael had a versatile vocal range, which can be heard in his music and his live performances. And it makes sense that such a talented vocalist would have that much range. He was also apparently really good at doing other voices and joking around, like this time he answered the phone pretending to be his own assistant.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Who's calling, please?
Looking for Michael.
Who's speaking, please?
Akon.
1 minute, please.
Thanks.
Hello?
And that was Michael.
Akon.
Hey, what's going on, Michael?
But if his real voice was
didn't even
so
sound
much
like
deeper
Akon,
than his
the fuck?
public voice, then why was he hiding it? Well, first of all, his real voice wasn't actually that much deeper than the voice he did in public. It was just more of like a normal pitch. And there are multiple theories as to why
big ass diamond in that motherfucking wall.
A big rumor that had gone around was that Michael's dad had chemically castrated him. His former doctor, Conrad Murray, even claimed this, but this doctor was also the person that killed him, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, and had his medical license revoked, so he's probably not the best source. Plus, because MJ was able to grow facial hair, it's unlikely that this actually happened. On top of that, most of the people in his family had naturally higher voices in general. Like Piers Morgan suggested, he spoke softer when speaking in public or with kids, and was a bit more stern when it came to serious subjects. Other friends of Michael thought it was him creating a persona to protect himself from the intrusive public.
That's what I
think
it is.
The biggest theory as to why he did this was that it was just to preserve his voice. In reality,
that
it was
too.
probably
Yeah, you fucking when you're a singer and shit, you do be trying to preserve your voice, but I don't know.
A few of these things, except for the castration part, he probably was softer spoken when talking about softer subjects and a bit deeper when it was serious, which is pretty normal for vocal inflections for everybody, not just Michael Jackson. And preserving his singing voice was probably also very important for him as well. So while he did have a real voice that we didn't hear as often, it wasn't all that different from what we were already hearing. And it definitely wasn't super deep like some fans have suggested. And while Michael has been subject to many wild myths, there's a rapper who's always been fairly mythical throughout his whole career, and that is MF Doom. MF Doom is a rapper that had a lot of mystery.
Oh, all right, because I wanted to hear some shit about him because I was hearing people talk about him, and I always thought MF Doom was a group. I guess I was tripping.
Around him. For much of his career, while very successful, MF Doom was also a bit more of an underground artist. After being bullied by his previous record label while in a rap group called KMD, he left the music industry for a while and returned with the name MF Doom. His entire ideology was that because of how the music industry did him at first, he wanted to become rap's first supervillain. He donned a mask that he
MF's Doom, like motherfuckers Doom? Is that what that stood for?
Took off in public for the rest of his career. If you couldn't tell, his whole rap persona was heavily inspired by Dr. Doom from Marvel, a pretty cool supervillain. Doom rarely did interviews, didn't speak much on his past, and even when he died, his estate did not tell anyone until months later. So clearly Doom was very mysterious. But one thing that fans began to theorize was that Doom was sending body doubles to his concerts. I mean, it would be pretty easy, right? He had a mask on, and someone that has a similar build and kind of similar voice could definitely pull it off no problem. For example, in his performance at the Rock the Bells concert in 2007, many people theorized that he was lip-syncing because the vocals sounded like a studio track. Plus, in songs, he would even say things like, he plots shows like robberies in and out. 1, 2, 3. Nobody's pleased. There were plenty of other concerts where fans theorized that Doom wasn't even there. One fan on Reddit even claimed, I went to an MF Doom show in Atlanta in like 2007-8 where an imposter showed up wearing the mask and lip syncing over the album cut. Everybody caught on, and the fake Doom got chased out the back of the venue, jumped in a car, and peeled out of the parking lot. It was madness. They ended up coming back the next day and giving away a truckload of custom Doom Nikes to make up for it. Who knows if that's actually true, but I wouldn't be too surprised if that actually happened. Regardless, fans were theorizing about these imposters for years, with stories like these floating around the internet for a long time. But they had no proof, no concrete evidence, at least until 2010 on a mini tour he did in Chicago. At the show, a similar situation occurred where the fake MF Doom came out, never addressed the crowd, and only rapped tracks in what sounded like studio quality vocals, and then left. Fans were extremely upset, suspecting a fake Doom, and the venue actually put out a statement that said that the real Doom was not who performed. To be fair though, Doom's production company put out a different statement. They said, at the current time, React, Cold Grums, Silver Rapper, and the Congress Theater do not have any proof that the person who performed was not Daniel Dumile, aka Doom. The show was legally contracted and paid for in full. The show was officially listed on Doom's website. Regardless, people were pretty upset, with some saying things like, Doom never once said anything except the straight lyric, never once addressed the crowd. Clearly it was a recorded track laying down rhymes. Once Doom gave a few tracks, maybe 7, he just up and left. The lights popped on, and a few thousand Chicagoans felt like they just got screwed out of $30 each. People were booing and throwing trash at the end, so clearly people were very upset. Then, at a show in Toronto, there was a similar situation. Everyone was already nervous about going because of all this news about Doom imposters. After a shakily planned show and a bunch of nervous fans showed up, an imposter ran out on stage and people were pissed.
Yeah, you could tell that that's just the track.
Then, though, after being booed...
Damn, he basically ruined his career doing shit like this, because I'm pretty sure motherfuckers stopped rocking with him after this.
Doom came out. Turns out his flight was just... Then, though, after being booed, the real Doom came out. Turns out his flight was just super late and he was just trolling the fans. Eventually, Doom decided to come clean about his imposters in an interview saying, I liken it to this. I'm a director as well as a writer. I choose different characters, I choose their direction and where I want to put them. So who I choose to put as the character is up to me. The character that I hired, he got paid for it. There's no imposter. When I go to a show, I'm going to hear the music. I'm not going to see no particular person. People need to think outside of the box. So when you come to a Doom show, I'm letting all the cats know now, come to the show and come to hear the music. To see me, y'all don't even know who I am. However, a lot of fans aren't too fond of this, especially because he never gave this disclaimer before any of his concerts. And it makes perfect sense as to why people were upset about this. But I do think it is
characters. Kind of get the fuck out of here.
Body doubles. I think I heard rumors that he said before that if the shows weren't paying enough, he would just send a double to do it for him and things like that, which is pretty funny in my opinion. But of course, I get why people were upset about this. So while Doom officially confirmed...
Your singer, yeah, that's crazy. That's some crazy shit. I ain't never heard that. I heard about lip singings and all that shit, but for you to be sending out motherfucking doubles to that's crazy.
Ozzy Osbourne had a few even crazier ones surrounding his life. Ozzy Osbourne, who recently passed away at the age of 76,
I thought that was a woman who was holding the back of him out.
Surrounding his life. Ozzy Osbourne, who recently passed away at the age of 76, was one of rock and roll's all-time biggest legends. And as a performer, Ozzy definitely knew how to push the limits. He was one of the founding members of the metal band Black Sabbath. And after allegedly being kicked out due to his unpredictable drug use and antics, he also went on to have a just as successful solo career. During this career, you may remember hearing some pretty wild stories about Ozzy. One of the most famous ones being that he bit the head off of a living bat. And since this allegedly happened over 40 years ago, fans have some conflicting recounts of the facts, especially since Ozzy himself told a few versions. But this is what actually happened. In January 1982, Ozzy was about 2 months into an exhausting tour promoting his second solo album, Diary of a Madman. And during this tour, a strange tradition started to develop. Basically, throughout the show, Ozzy would throw pieces of raw meat and animal parts, including intestines and liver, into the audience. Ozzy said the reason was because he thought it was hilarious. And apparently the crowd thought the same, as they threw back anything they could sneak into the venues, like sheep testicles, live snakes, and dead rats, to name a few. Anyways though, for some context, Ozzy worked at a slaughterhouse and a crematorium growing up, and he had a pretty wild reputation and was known for always being on some type of
That's even worse. Don't be throwing no motherfucking organs and guts and all this type of shit at me while I'm at a show. What the fuck? I would say hell no.
Didn't really shock anyone too much. But everything changed when something small and black landed on the stage during a rowdy Wednesday night show in Des Moines, Iowa.
somebody threw a bat on stage, and I thought it was one of these toy bats. So I picked it up, bite the thing's head off, and suddenly everybody's freaking out 'cause it's a real bat. 'Cause like on the stage set, like the bat goes like asleep when the lights go on it. So.
So it was, for all practical purposes, a toy bat.
Yeah, but I can assure you the rabies shots that I went through afterwards aren't fun.
No, they're painful, I understand.
In his 20
afterwards aren't fun. But I can assure you the rabies shots that I went through.
So it was, for all practical purposes, a toy bat.
Yeah,
so was it a fake bat or was it a real fucking bat? They saying he threw a real bat on stage. Now he's saying it was a fake bat.
I can assure you the rabies shots that I went through afterwards aren't fun.
No, they're painful, I understand.
In his 2010 autobiography, I Am Ozzy, he describes immediately picking up the object, stuffing it in his mouth, and chomping down. He said, immediately though, something felt wrong. Very wrong. For a start, my mouth was instantly full of this warm, gloopy liquid. Then the head in my mouth twitched. He followed this simply saying, somebody threw a bat. I thought it was just a rubber bat. I picked it up and put it in my mouth. I bit into it. Then he quickly noticed, oh no, it's real. It was a live bat. But as Ozzy was always on some type of drugs and often admits that he doesn't remember a lot of things, his story has conflicted.
Who the fuck, how you throw a bat on stage? How you snuck a bat in there, and how did the bat didn't fly away? It just landed on stage, just there? That's crazy.
With himself a few times. In a 2006 interview,
why is a grown man, he got little Hello Kitty things on it? Oh, you down bad.
His story has conflicted with itself a few times. In a 2006 interview with BBC, he told a similar story, but instead pointing out that the bat was already dead. So while the whole situation is pretty crazy regardless, for fans, it's hard to tell if the bat was truly alive or if it was already dead when thrown on stage.
I would think that it was already dead, because it wasn't moving, or it got hurt when it fell on stage, because he said the head twitched in his mouth, but
until the man who claims to have brought the bat to the show gave some clarification. Mark Neal, who was 17 at the time, says his younger brother brought the bat home days before the show, trying to save it, but it died. He claims that by the time he took it to the concert, it had already been dead for 2 days. So we can be sure that the bat did end up in Ozzy's mouth, and that it seems to have been most likely dead, making this one of rock's craziest myths. But what's weird is this is not the only myth about him biting off the heads of live animals.
Yeah, that's even worse. It was you bit a dead bat that been dead for over 2-3 days. Boy, you definitely had to get rabies shots. What the fuck?
9 months before the bat incident, in Los Angeles, he actually had a similar series of events go down. Again, the details are conflicting and they vary, but here's the basics. Ozzy was set to meet with CBS record label execs, and his wife Sharon had the idea of releasing 3 doves to represent peace. After a short speech giving thanks, Ozzy was supposed to release the birds, but that is not what happened.
No, but there are other accounts where you bit the head off was it a pigeon?
Well, it's my hobby, you know.
No, now, see, you're going to give these people the wrong, it's not really your hobby, is it?
Let's have a look at your neck.
No, hey.
According to one recount, Ozzy had been drinking brandy all day before the meeting, and midway through, he grew annoyed with one of the PR women. So, to shut her up, he decided to pull out one of the doves and bite its head off. Then he allegedly did it again with another dove, but this time spitting its head out on the table. Ozzy said, "That's when they threw me out. They said I'd never work for CBS again." In another version, 12 months later, the doves had all apparently died already, and in Ozzy's words, rather than waste it, I bit its head off. So once these myths were later clarified by Ozzy himself and others, it seems like it's true that he did enjoy biting the heads off of dead or alive animals. And while this myth was really crazy and silly, the next one is a bit more serious and could have even had real consequences for US citizens. For a long time, there have been myths floating around that the FBI was surveilling John Lennon, one of the members of the Beatles. And you might be wondering, why would they do that? What sort of threat could this guy possibly pose? Well, the FBI has actually always been up to some type of shenanigans when it comes to musicians, and the government has too in general. The CIA has been known to fund musicians who share their ideologies, especially during the Cold War, to sponsor anti-communist activity. They even organized tours for musicians across the world so that they could fight against communism. Then there was the notorious FBI counterintelligence program, or COINTELPRO for for short. COINTELPRO had a lot of objectives, according to PS Mag, to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize subversive political groups. Though the program targeted many different progressive movements, it spent most of its energy attempting to suppress black civil rights groups and prominent black figures with connections to civil rights groups, however small. COINTELPRO infamously sent Martin Luther King Jr. a letter in 1964 encouraging him to commit suicide. COINTELPRO also surveyed a lot of musicians who had similar ideologies like Jimi Hendrix, Duke Ellington, Nat King Cole, and many more. They have also been confirmed to have investigated a bunch of rappers as well. The FBI, not necessarily the COINTEL program. So it should not come as much of a shock that they were also investigating John Lennon. The reason was because after getting married to his wife Yoko Ono, he became a bit more of an activist, famously protesting for peace on his honeymoon with her by staying in bed for a week, which got a ton of attention. On top of this, they made a song called Give Peace a Chance, which became a huge anti-Vietnam War song, with many protesters marching and singing this song. The US government had just lowered the voting age to 18, so they were concerned that Lennon would influence the youth to vote against President Richard Nixon. It got to the point that the FBI was trying to intimidate and deport John Lennon and his wife. For a long time, John and Yoko fought heavily against the government by criticizing them, supporting the Black Panther Party, sympathizing with Marxist groups, and more, which back then especially the government was not too fond of. John claimed that for years the FBI tapped his phone and was following him. He said in an interview, "When it first started, I was followed in a car and my phone was tapped. I think they wanted me to notice, to scare me. And I was scared, paranoid." For years though, these were just claims and we had no real proof. Until a historian by the name of John Wiener, yes, John Wiener, that's his name, you heard me right. John Wiener began...
I actually had a neighbor whose name was Weenie. Yeah, it's crazy. His real, I don't know if his real name, but yeah, his name was Weenie. Yeah.
Surveillance of John Lennon for a very long and thorough amount of time. So the FBI finally released their files on John, where everything I mentioned turned out to be true. You can actually find these files online and see all of their surveillance of him. So big shout out to John Wiener. It turns out that since he had a drug charge back home, they thought it would be easiest to deport him. They even allegedly thought about setting him up with a drug bust. But a Nixon official said it was a very bad idea since they would get so much bad press. So while this does sound too crazy to be true, it was 100% real. And another crazy music story that sounds like a myth is that Keith Richards snorted his dad's ashes. Keith Richards is a rock star mainly known for his role as the guitarist with the Rolling Stones. And a big part of his aura, like many other artists from his day, came with doing tons of drugs. And years after the Stones' peak, more and more stories continue to come out about different antics the guy got into during their run. One of these rumors came about after Keith jokingly said in an interview that he snorted his dad's ashes. During an interview with NME magazine.
Fuck, the Outlaws said they smoked Tupac ashes, so then they tried to take it back, but it's too late. I believe you.
He said, "The strangest thing I've tried to snort? My father. I snorted my father." He continued, "He was cremated and I couldn't resist grinding him up with a little bit of blow. My dad wouldn't have cared. He didn't give a shit. It went down pretty well, and I'm still alive." This strange answer in the interview took over headlines all over the world, dominating the news cycle, with a mostly and understandably negative response. Almost immediately, the Rolling Stones PR team released a statement saying, "It was an off-the-cuff remark, a joke, and it is not true. File under April Fool's joke." And even Keith weighed in on the debate himself, giving some context on the website. He claimed that NME took some creative liberties in their publishment of the review, and that while most of the story's details were true, specifically snorting the ashes, NME got some major details wrong, mainly that he mixed the ashes with blow, which Keith claims is false. So because of the Rolling Stones comment, a lot of people believed it to be false or a rumor or a joke, but Keith confirmed it to be true later on the Rolling Stones website.
You saying he did sniff the ashes, just not with blow. He like, I sniffed that by itself. I ain't had to mix it with nothing.
Doubled down a couple of times, like in his 2010 memoir and in an interview with CBS, where he painted a bit more of a descriptive picture of what went down.
It is true. You did in fact do it.
I ingested my ancestor, yes. Mainly because I'd had his box of ashes around for about 5-6 years. Somehow I couldn't part with him. You know, I mean, I couldn't toss him to the wind or do some ceremony, and he would have cringed at that. And honestly, I could not resist. I just scooped him up there, took out a straw, and see you, Dad. And I did a little line on him. Yeah, I did that.
Nigga said that like it was nothing. I did a little line
yeah,
of him.
I did that. And the rest of him is around this oak tree, which is growing incredibly well.
What? Nigga say he put the rest of it around the oak tree.
Is around this oak tree, which is growing incredibly well.
I actually don't even think about that. That's a good idea, you know what I'm saying? Cause I have my father, well, I got some of them. But yeah, that's a good place to put ashes. Like, put it in a tree. Like, grow a tree or some shit in the garden and put the ashes in there and see what it. Good idea.
Ingesting your ancestors has been
not that
a
idea.
Very, very important thing throughout history. Many ancient cultures do that.
And it seems that Keith has no regrets, as a few years later he doubled down again on the move even further. This is by giving his daughters permission to snort him when he dies, which he even said, "I'll give them a straw." So while this myth is mostly true, it definitely solidifies how crazy a lot of these rock guys like him and Ozzy used to be, especially with all the drugs they were on back in the day. If you like this video, you might like my video about some of the craziest non-rap diss tracks of all time. Ryan,
I actually did like this video. This video was very entertaining. Kept me entertained the whole way. And I'll do more on it. If y'all like it, leave a comment. And, you know, like and subscribe. You know the good shit. You know what to do.